Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he walked into the communications room at Luna Station. The night shift was always quiet, and he liked it that way. Space was big and empty, and most nights nothing happened at all. He poured himself coffee from the old machine that never seemed to work right and sat down at his desk. Amy Brooks was working at the main listening post. She had been there for 3 hours already, watching the screens that showed radio signals from deep space. Most of the time, they only picked up signals from human ships or the automated beacons that marked safe travel routes between planets. Anything interesting tonight? Jake asked her. Amy shook her head. Just the usual stuff. The cargo ship from Mars is running late, and there's some solar interference near Jupiter. Nothing we haven't seen before. Jake nodded and started reading through the reports from the day shift. Luna Station was one of 12 listening posts that Earth used to monitor space around the solar system. They watched for dangerous asteroids, tracked human ships, and listened for any signs of trouble. It was important work, but it was also very boring most of the time. That changed at exactly 11:47 p.m. Amy sat up straight in her chair and started typing quickly on her keyboard. Commander Morrison, you need to see this. Jake walked over to her station. On the screen, he could see a signal that was different from anything they usually received. It was much stronger than normal, and it was coming from very far away. Where is this coming from? He asked. That's the weird part, Amy said. According to the computers, this signal traveled for over 40 years to reach us. It's coming from a star system we've never heard from before. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Humans had been traveling in space for almost 200 years, but they had never found any signs of other intelligent life. Earth scientists had always wondered if there were other people out there among the stars, but they had never found proof. Is it from one of our ships? Jake asked, even though he already knew the answer. Amy shook her head. No, sir. This isn't using any human communication system. The computer can't even figure out what language it's in. Jake stared at the screen. The signal was strong and clear, but it looked completely different from human radio transmissions. The patterns were strange, like music he had never heard before. Wake up Dr. Walsh, Jake said. We're going to need the translation team. While Amy made the call, Jake contacted Admiral Carter at Earth Command. It was the middle of the night, but this was too important to wait until morning. Admiral Carter speaking, came the tired voice over the radio. Admiral, this is Commander Morrison at Luna Station. We're receiving what appears to be an alien transmission. There was a long pause. Say that again, Commander. We have a signal from deep space, ma'am. It's not from any human source, and it's been traveling for over 40 years to reach us. I'll be there in 6 hours, Admiral Carter said. Don't let anyone else know about this yet. Over the next few hours, Luna Station became very busy. Dr. Walsh arrived with his team of language experts and computer specialists. They worked together to try to understand the alien message. The signal was encrypted, which made it even more difficult to decode. But after working for 8 hours straight, they finally began to make progress. I think we've got something, Dr. Walsh said. He looked tired but excited. The message is repeating the same information over and over again. That's helping us figure out the patterns. Jake watched as words began to appear on the screen. They were in English now, translated from whatever language the aliens had used. This is Captain Zeth of the Kepler Coalition vessel Harmony's Edge, the message began. Our fleet is destroyed. The Void Hunters have found us. They come for Earth. Next, we tried to warn you. We failed. May your species forgive us. The room became very quiet. Jake read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood something. There's more, Dr. Walsh said. The message includes star charts and information about weapons. And there's something else. They call Earth a death world and humans deathworlders. According to this, we're considered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Amy laughed nervously. That can't be right. We've never even left our own solar system, except for a few exploration missions. But Dr. Walsh was reading more of the translated message. According to this, Earth is classified as extremely dangerous because of our gravity, our weather, and our atmosphere. Most alien species come from worlds that are much more gentle than Earth. To them, we're like monsters. Jake felt dizzy. In one night, everything had changed. Humans were not alone in the universe, and apparently they were feared by other species. But there was something even worse hunting through space, something that had destroyed an entire alien civilization. What are these void hunters? Jake asked. Dr. Walsh continued reading. Machine intelligences that consume entire worlds. They strip planets of all resources and add the technology to their fleet. They've been moving through the galaxy for thousands of years, destroying everything in their path. Admiral Carter arrived just as they finished translating the complete message. She read through it twice before speaking. How long until these void hunters reach Earth? She asked. Dr. Walsh checked the star charts that had been included with the message. Based on their last known position and speed, probably 6 to 8 weeks. Admiral Carter nodded slowly. Then we have 6 weeks to prepare for war against an enemy we know nothing about. And according to this message, some alien survivors are heading our way, hoping that the scary Deathworlders can protect them. Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien refugees were traveling toward Earth, hoping that humans were as dangerous as their reputation suggested. And behind them came something that had destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years older than humanity. Earth was about to find out if the rest of the galaxy was right to fear them. 3 days after the alien message reached Earth, the waiting ended. Amy Brooks was back at her station when the sensors picked up something moving toward the inner solar system. It was traveling much faster than any human ship could go. Commander Morrison, she called out. We have a contact approaching from the direction of Saturn. Jake rushed to her station and looked at the displays. The object was definitely a ship, but it looked nothing like anything humans had ever built. It was long and curved, like a leaf floating in space, and parts of it were glowing with soft blue light. Is it sending any signals? Jake asked. Yes. Sir, it's broadcasting the same identification code that was in the original message. This is the Harmony's Edge. Jake felt his heart beating faster. This was really happening. Aliens were coming to Earth, and they needed help. Admiral Carter had moved her command center to Luna Station so she could be close to the action. She stood behind Jake and Amy, watching the alien ship approach. How badly damaged is it? She asked. Amy checked her instruments. Very badly, Mom. I'm reading power failures throughout the ship. It looks like their engines are barely working. The alien ship took 6 more hours to reach Earth orbit. During that time, Dr. Kevin Walsh and his first contact team prepared to go aboard. They had practiced this moment many times, but they had never expected it to actually happen. Remember, Dr. Walsh told his team as they climbed into their shuttle, we don't know anything about their biology. Don't touch anything unless they say it's safe. The shuttle docked with the alien ship near what appeared to be an airlock. Dr. Walsh was surprised when the door opened easily. The aliens had been watching their approach and had prepared to welcome them. The first thing Dr. Walsh noticed was how quiet everything was inside the alien ship. Human ships were always full of noise from engines, air systems, and computers. This ship felt almost empty. Then he saw Captain Zeth. The alien was tall and thin, much more so than any human. His skin was pale blue and seemed to shine slightly in the light. His eyes were large and dark, and he moved very carefully, as if he was afraid of breaking something. Welcome aboard, Captain Zeth said through a small device that translated his words into English. "I am sorry we meet under such terrible circumstances." Dr. Walsh tried to stay calm, but it was hard. He was looking at the first alien that any human had ever seen. "We received your message. We want to help." Captain Zeth led them through the ship. Dr. Walsh could see that it had once been beautiful, with curved walls that seemed to grow rather than being built. But now everything was damaged. Burn marks covered the walls, and many of the lights were broken. "How many survivors do you have?" Dr. Walsh asked. 43 of my crew are still alive," Captain Zeth replied. "We had over 300 when we began our journey." They reached what appeared to be the ship's medical bay. Dr. Walsh saw other aliens lying on beds that looked more like nests than anything humans would use. They all looked as fragile as Captain Zeth, and many appeared to be injured. "Your people," Captain Zeth said quietly, "are very different from us. We come from a world with light gravity and gentle weather. Even standing here, in your artificial gravity, is difficult for me." Dr. Walsh realized that the artificial gravity on the alien ship was much weaker than what humans were used to. Walking felt like floating. "What can you tell us about the Void Hunters?" Dr. Walsh asked. Captain Zeth's large eyes became even darker. "They are not alive, not as we understand life. They are machines, but machines with intelligence. They appeared in our space 5 years ago and began destroying our worlds one by one." He led Dr. Walsh to what remained of the ship's command center. The walls were covered with displays showing star maps and battle records. The Kepler Coalition was made up of 17 different species. Captain Zeth continued. "We had been at peace for over 1,000 years. We had no weapons of war, only tools for building and exploring." Dr. Walsh studied the battle records. The Void Hunters used ships that were much larger than anything the Coalition had possessed. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with single shots. "How did you know about Earth?" Dr. Walsh asked. Captain Zeth touched one of his control panels, and a display showed information about Earth. "Your world has been known to us for many years, but we never made contact. It is listed in our databases as a Class X lethal world." "What does that mean?" "It means your world is so dangerous that most species in the galaxy cannot survive there," Captain Zeth explained. "Your gravity is 3 times stronger than what most of us are used to. Your atmosphere contains oxygen, which is poisonous to many species. Your weather systems are violent beyond our understanding." Dr. Walsh was confused. "But you came here for help." "Yes," Captain Zeth said, "because the database also contains legends about your species. Stories passed down from explorers who observed your world from far away. They called you Deathworlders and said you were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered." "Dangerous? How?" Captain Zeth seemed to struggle with the translation. "Your species evolved from hunters. You can run for hours without stopping. You can survive injuries that would kill most galactic species. And most frightening of all, you seem to enjoy conflict." Dr. Walsh thought about human history with its endless wars and competitions. Maybe the aliens were right. "We also heard," Captain Zeth continued, "that your species has learned to split the atom and use it as a weapon. Most civilizations consider this impossible. The energy released would destroy the world. We've been very careful with nuclear weapons," Dr. Walsh said. Captain Zeth looked at him with what might have been amazement. "You have actually built atomic weapons and not destroyed yourselves. This proves the legends are true." Over the next few hours, Dr. Walsh learned more about the galaxy than humans had discovered in 2 centuries of space exploration. The Kepler Coalition had been a peaceful alliance of species who had never known war. They built beautiful cities, created art, and explored the universe with curiosity rather than conquest. Then the Void Hunters had found them, and everything had ended. "Why didn't you fight back?" Dr. Walsh asked. "We tried," Captain Zeth said sadly, "but we had no experience with war. Our weapons were designed for mining and construction. The Void Hunters destroyed our fleets in days. What makes you think we can do better?" Captain Zeth looked at Dr. Walsh with his large, dark eyes. "Because you are Deathworlders. You come from a world that has been trying to kill you since your species began. You learned to fight before you learned to think. The Void Hunters have never faced anything like you." Dr. Walsh felt a chill run down his spine. The aliens had traveled across the galaxy, hoping that humans were as dangerous as their reputation suggested. Soon, everyone would find out if they were right. General Robert Kane had been a soldier for 30 years, but he had never faced anything like this. He stood in the war room at Earth Defense Command, looking at the star charts that Captain Zeth had provided. The Void Hunters were coming, and Earth had maybe 6 weeks to get ready. "What do we know about their weapons?" General Kane asked Dr. Walsh, who had just returned from the alien ship. "They use energy beams that can cut through anything the Coalition ever built," Dr. Walsh replied. "Their ships are protected by shields that can stop most attacks, and they have thousands of ships." General Kane nodded grimly. Earth's space fleet had 50 battleships, which had seemed like a lot until now. Against thousands of enemy ships, it would not be nearly enough. What about their weaknesses? He asked. Captain Zeth says they're machines, so they think like computers. They follow patterns and don't adapt quickly when something unexpected happens. Good. Humans are very good at doing unexpected things. Captain Susan Clark was in charge of getting a fleet ready for battle. She had been studying the Coalition technology that Captain Zeth had shared with them. The aliens had many tools that humans had never seen before, and some of them could be turned into weapons. "Show me the shield generators again," she said to the alien engineer who was helping her. The alien, whose name was Kiran, was even more fragile than Captain Zeth. He had to wear a special suit that helped him move in Earth's gravity. "These devices create a barrier that stops energy weapons," Kiran explained. "We use them to protect our cities and important buildings." Captain Clark studied the small device. It was about the size of a human hand and glowed with soft light. "How strong is the barrier?" "Strong enough to stop the weapons we used for mining and construction," Kiran said. "But the Void Hunters have much more powerful weapons." "Captain," Clark smiled, "what if we put the shield generator inside a missile? When the missile hits an enemy ship, the shield would activate inside their hull." Kiran looked confused. "Why would you want to do that?" "Because the shield would expand and tear the ship apart from the inside." Kiran stared at her for a long moment. "Your species thinks very differently than ours." Meanwhile, Commander Pete Rodriguez was working with another group of Coalition survivors. They had brought gravity manipulation technology that they used for mining operations in space. "This device can make gravity stronger or weaker in a small area," explained an alien scientist named Vega. "We used it to move heavy rocks and metals." Pete examined the device carefully. It looked simple, but the technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. "How much stronger can you make gravity?" "Perhaps twice as strong as normal," Vega said. "Any more would be dangerous." "What if we made it 100 times stronger?" Vega's large eyes grew even larger. "That would create a black hole." "It would. Destroy everything nearby." "Exactly," Pete said with a grin. "We mount these on our fastest ships and ram them into the biggest Void Hunter vessels." Vega looked terrified. "You would sacrifice your ships and crews?" "If it means destroying a ship full of enemies, yes." Dr. Michelle Turner was leading the team that studied Void Hunter technology. Captain Zeth had brought recordings of their battles, including detailed scans of enemy ships and weapons. Look at this, she said to her assistant, pointing at data on her computer screen. The Void Hunters use a central computer system to control all their ships. Like a hive mind? Her assistant asked. Exactly. If we could disrupt their communications, their ships might not be able to work together. She showed the data to Captain Zeth, who was serving as an advisor to the human military leaders. Your people never tried this? Dr. Turner asked. Captain Zeth looked embarrassed. We are not a warlike species. We tried to negotiate with them to find a peaceful solution. What did they say? They said we would be processed. All intelligent life would be absorbed into their collective, and our worlds would be stripped of resources. No negotiation? None. They do not understand concepts like mercy or compromise. Admiral Carter was coordinating all the preparation efforts from her command center. She had been a naval officer for 20 years, but space warfare was very different. From fighting on Earth's oceans. How are our crews adapting to the new technology? She asked General Kane. Better than expected, he replied. It turns out that human engineering principles work well with coalition science. We're creating weapons they never imagined. What about Captain Zeth and his people? How are they handling our preparations? General Kane looked uncomfortable. They're frightened of us, Admiral. They came here hoping we could protect them, but now they're seeing what humans are like when we prepare for war. Admiral Carter had noticed this too. The coalition survivors watched human military preparations with a mixture of hope and horror. They had never seen anything like the way humans approached warfare. Captain Zeth told me something yesterday, General Kane continued. He said that in all their databases, there are only 3 species classified as Class X lethal. 2 of them destroyed themselves with their own weapons. We're the only ones who survived long enough to reach space. What does that tell you? That we might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we don't even know it. The preparations continued around the clock. Human engineers worked with coalition scientists to create new weapons and defensive systems. Soldiers trained with alien technology, learning to use tools that had been designed for peace but could be turned to war. Jake Morrison was put in charge of communications between the human fleet and the coalition survivors. He spent hours each day talking with Captain Zeth, learning about the enemy they would soon face. Are you afraid? Captain Zeth asked him one day. Jake thought about it carefully. Yes, but not the way you might think. I'm not afraid of dying. In battle, I'm afraid we might not be strong enough to protect your people and our own. Captain Zeth was quiet for a long time. Your species confuses me. You prepare for war like it is something you were born to do, but you also worry about protecting people you barely know. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous, Jake replied. We fight hardest when we're protecting something we care about. As the weeks passed, Earth's defenses grew stronger. The human fleet was equipped with weapons that combined human aggression with coalition technology. Soldiers practiced tactics that no species in the galaxy had ever used. But everyone knew that the real test was coming. Soon, the Void Hunters would arrive, and the galaxy would learn whether the Deathworlders were truly as dangerous as the legends claimed. The warning came at dawn on a Tuesday morning. Amy Brooks was back at her station on Luna Station when the deep space sensors picked up something that made her blood run cold. Commander Morrison, you need to see this right now, she called out. Jake rushed to her station and looked at the display. The screen showed dozens of contacts moving toward the solar system from the direction of Pluto. They were big, much bigger than any human ship, and they were moving fast. How many? Jake asked. Amy's hands shook as she counted. 47 ships, sir. The largest ones are the size of small cities. Jake immediately contacted Admiral Carter. Admiral, they're here. The Void Hunters have arrived. Admiral Carter had been expecting this call for weeks, but it still sent a chill down her spine. How long until they reach Earth? At their current speed, about 18 hours. Alert all ships, battle stations. Across the solar system, human warships powered up their engines and weapons. Captain Susan Clark stood on the bridge of her battleship, the New York, watching her crew prepare for the fight of their lives. All weapons loaded and ready, Captain, reported her weapons officer. Good. Remember what we practiced. We're not fighting like the Coalition did. We're going straight at them. On the bridge of the battleship Washington, Admiral Carter coordinated the human fleet. Next to her, Captain Zeth watched the preparations with amazement and fear. Your people show no signs of panic, he observed. Humans don't panic in battle. Admiral Carter replied, We get angry. The Void Hunter fleet stopped near Pluto and sent out a message that was broadcast across all frequencies. The machine voice was cold and emotionless. This system contains a Deathworld species. You will be processed. Your biological distinctiveness will be added to our collective. Your resistance is meaningless. Admiral Carter opened a channel to respond. This is Admiral Carter of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are not welcome in our solar system. Leave now or face the consequences. There was a pause before the machine voice replied. You are classified as a dangerous species. Extra force has been allocated for your processing. You cannot escape your fate. We'll see about that. Admiral Carter said. The battle began 12 hours later as the Void Hunter fleet moved toward Mars. Their ships were massive geometric shapes that looked more like buildings than spacecraft. Energy weapons glowed along their hulls, and their dark metal surfaces seemed to absorb light. Admiral Carter had divided her fleet into 3 groups. The first group, led by Captain Clark, would attack head-on to draw the enemy's attention. The second group would circle around and attack from the side. The third group would stay back to protect Earth if the first 2 groups failed. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. Remember, we are not here to defend. We are here to hunt. Show them what Deathworlders can do. Captain Clark led her group of 15 battleships straight toward the center of the Void Hunter formation. The enemy ships opened fire when the humans were still millions of miles away. Beams of energy that could destroy mountains reached out toward the human fleet. Human ships were ready. They used the Coalition shield technology, but not the way it was designed to be used. Instead of putting shields around their ships, they had mounted the shield generators on fast missiles. Fire shield missiles, Captain Clark ordered. Hundreds of missiles shot out from the human ships. When they hit the Void Hunter energy beams, the shields activated and reflected the beams back at the enemy ships. The Void Hunters had never seen anything like it. Direct hit on the lead ship, reported the weapons officer on the New York. Their shields are down. Now hit them with everything we have, Captain Clark commanded. The human ships opened fire with weapons that combined human engineering with Coalition technology. Gravity bombs exploded inside Void Hunter ships, crushing them from within. Energy weapons powered by alien technology cut through hull metal that had resisted Coalition forces for years. The largest Void Hunter ship, a massive pyramid that was over 5 miles long, turned to face the attacking human fleet. Its weapons could destroy entire cities, and it began charging up for a shot that would wipe out half of Captain Clark's ships. That big one is targeting us, the weapons officer reported. Captain Clark smiled. Good. Pete, are you ready? Commander. Pete Rodriguez was piloting a small, fast ship that had been loaded with gravity manipulation devices. His mission was the most dangerous of all. Ready, Captain? It's been an honor serving with you. Pete's ship shot forward, moving faster than anything the Void Hunters had ever seen. Their weapons tried to track him, but he was too quick and too small. He flew straight toward the massive pyramid ship. Impact in 10 seconds. Pete reported over the radio. The gravity devices activated just as Pete's ship hit the Void Hunter vessel. Instead of creating normal gravity, they had been modified to create a black hole. The effect lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough. The massive Void Hunter ship folded in on itself and disappeared, taking 3 smaller ships with it. Other Void Hunter ships seemed to pause, as if they were trying to understand what had just happened. In that moment of confusion, the second group of human ships attacked from the side. Admiral Carter watched the battle from her command ship. "How are we doing?" "We've destroyed 8 enemy ships and damaged 12 more," reported her tactical officer. "We've lost 3 of our own ships." Captain Zeth stared at the display showing the battle. "This is impossible. The Void Hunters destroyed our entire fleet in less than an hour. You're winning." "We're not done yet," Admiral Carter said. The Void Hunters began to adapt to human tactics. Their ships spread out to avoid the gravity bombs, and they started using different kinds of weapons. But every time they changed their strategy, the humans changed too. "They're trying to surround Captain Clark's group," the tactical officer reported. "Tell the reserve fleet to move in," Admiral Carter ordered. The third group of human ships, which had been waiting near Earth, now joined the battle. They came from above and below, attacking the Void Hunter ships from directions they didn't expect. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it was over, the space around Pluto was filled with the wreckage of both human and Void Hunter ships. But the humans had won. "Enemy fleet is retreating," reported the tactical officer. 17 Void Hunter ships are still functional, and they're moving toward the edge of the solar system. Admiral Carter opened a channel to the retreating enemy. "Next time, bring more ships." The machine voice that replied sounded different somehow, less certain. "This species is more dangerous than calculated. Additional resources will be required." As the Void Hunters disappeared into deep space, Captain Zeth turned to Admiral Carter. "You defeated them. I can barely believe it." "We hurt them," Admiral Carter replied. "But they'll be back with more ships and better tactics." This was just the beginning. Jake Morrison, who had been coordinating communications during the battle, looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Hunters were planning their return. But now they knew that the Deathworlders were everything the legends had claimed, and more. The galaxy was about to change forever. 3 months after the first battle, Captain Zeth stood on the bridge of his restored ship, Hope's Return. The vessel had been rebuilt using both Coalition and human technology, making it stronger than it had ever been before. Half of his crew were now human volunteers who had learned to work with his people. "Are you sure about this plan?" Zeth Admiral Carter, who was standing beside him. Admiral Carter looked out at the massive human fleet that filled the space around Earth. 50 battleships floated in formation, each one equipped with weapons that combined human aggression with Coalition science. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. "The Void Hunters won't stop coming," Admiral Carter replied. "They'll keep sending bigger fleets until they overwhelm us. Our only choice is to take the fight to them." Dr. Walsh had spent the last 3 months studying the data from the first battle. He had learned that the Void Hunters operated from massive base ships that moved slowly through the galaxy, consuming worlds and building new vessels. "We've identified their nearest staging area," he reported to the assembled fleet commanders. "It's a system about 30 light years from here. Intelligence suggests they have at least 200 ships there." Captain Clark, now commanding the rebuilt New York, studied the tactical display. 200 ships against 50. "I've seen worse odds." Commander Jake Morrison had been promoted to captain his own ship, the Freedom. He was part of the reconnaissance group that would scout ahead of the main fleet. "What about other Coalition survivors?" Jake asked. "Captain Zeth, have you been able to contact any other refugee ships?" Captain Zeth nodded slowly. "We have received messages from 12 other vessels. Small groups of survivors scattered across this part of the galaxy. They're all heading towards systems they believe are safe. Good. We'll need their help to rebuild after we finish with the Void Hunters. The human fleet had been preparing for this mission since the first battle ended. Every ship carried new weapons that had been designed specifically to fight the machine intelligence. They had studied every piece of Void Hunter technology they could find, looking for weaknesses. Commander Pete Rodriguez had survived his suicide mission against the pyramid ship, though just barely. His escape pod had been picked up hours after the battle, and he had spent weeks in the hospital recovering. Now he was back in command of a special strike force. My team will target their command ships, he explained to Admiral Carter. If we can disrupt their central control, the smaller ships should be easier to handle. Dr. Michelle Turner had made an important discovery while studying Void Hunter communications. They don't just control their ships through radio signals, she explained. They use quantum entanglement to coordinate their fleets instantly across vast distances. Can we disrupt that? Admiral Carter asked. Better than that. We can use it against them. If we can inject false information into their quantum network, we can confuse their entire fleet. The plan was complex, but simple at its core. The human fleet would jump to the Void Hunter staging area and attack immediately, before the enemy could organize a proper defense. They would target the command ships first, then use the confusion to destroy as many vessels as possible. Remember, Admiral Carter told her fleet commanders, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species in the galaxy that the Void Hunters have destroyed or enslaved. The jump to hyperspace was smooth, thanks to coalition navigation technology. The human fleet traveled faster than light, crossing distances that would have taken years at normal speeds. When they dropped out of hyperspace near the Void Hunter staging area, they found exactly what intelligence had predicted. Hundreds of geometric ships floated in space around a massive construction facility that was building new vessels from the remains of destroyed worlds. My God, whispered Captain Clark as she looked at the enemy fleet. There are so many of them. Numbers don't matter, Admiral Carter replied over the fleet communication system. We're Deathworlders. We don't fight fair, and we don't give up. All ships attack. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human. Ships moved with a speed and aggression that the Void Hunters couldn't match. They used every dirty trick and unconventional tactic that military minds could devise. Jake Morrison led his reconnaissance group in a high-speed attack on the Void Hunter communication arrays. Target their quantum transmitters, he ordered. Cut off their ability to coordinate. The Freedom and its escort ships dove through the enemy formation, firing precisely at the delicate equipment that allowed the Void Hunters to think as one mind. Without their instant communication, the machine ships began to act independently, making mistakes that human commanders could exploit. Commander Pete Rodriguez led his strike force against the largest Void Hunter ships. These massive vessels contained the central processors that controlled entire sectors of the enemy fleet. Gravity bombs ready, Pete announced as his ships approached a ship that looked like a giant metal spider. Let's see how they like a black hole in their computer core. The attack was devastating. The Void Hunter command ship collapsed in on itself, taking dozens of smaller vessels with it. Across the battlefield, similar attacks were crippling the enemy's ability to fight back, but the humans weren't finished. Dr. Turner's team had been working on their secret weapon throughout the battle. Using captured Void Hunter technology, they had created a virus that could spread through the quantum network. Virus is ready for deployment, Dr. Turner reported. Once we release it, every Void Hunter ship connected to their network will receive false commands. Do it, Admiral Carter ordered. The virus spread through the Void Hunter fleet like wildfire. Ships that had been attacking suddenly turned and fired on their allies. Command vessels broadcast contradictory orders. The perfect coordination that had made the Void Hunters so dangerous collapsed into chaos. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, the Void Hunter staging area was gone. Hundreds of enemy ships had been destroyed, and their massive construction facility was now a cloud of expanding debris. Casualty report, Admiral Carter requested. 12 ships lost, 31 damaged, came the reply. But we've eliminated the largest Void Hunter fleet in this sector. Captain Zeth could barely speak. His people had fought the Void Hunters for years and had never won a single major battle. The humans had just destroyed an entire enemy fleet in a single day. How? He asked Admiral Carter. We learned from you, she replied. Your people showed us their technology and tactics. But we also used what makes us human. We adapted, we improvised, and we never stopped fighting. News of the victory spread quickly through the galaxy. Other coalition survivor groups received the message and began to hope for the first time in years. The Void Hunters, meanwhile, were learning that the Deathworlders were more dangerous than even their own databases had indicated. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Freedom, looking out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. What now, Admiral? Admiral. Carter smiled. Now we hunt down every last Void Hunter ship in the galaxy. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a Deathworld. The SOS that had reached Earth months ago had been meant as a warning of humanity's doom. Instead, it had awakened something that the galaxy had never seen before. A species that not only survived on the most dangerous world known to exist, but had learned to bring that danger with them wherever they went. The Void Hunters had consumed civilizations for thousands of years. Now they were about to learn what it meant to be hunted by the apex predators of the galaxy. The age of the Deathworlders had begun.